Hi, all. Welcome to this week's Dragonblade Authors Unplugged. I'm so glad you could join us. We have three authors with us today. We have four releases. Jenna was not able to join us, but I'll make sure that you get the information about her book in the chat. But this week we've got Dragonblade author Mae Thorn, Caroline Warfield, and C.H. Admirand. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
So I think we're going to start with Mae's book. I love the cover of this one. I love the cover of all of this series. They're so beautiful. But this one is Rebellious, and it's book 3 in the Poisonous Passion series. Mae, can you tell us a little bit about your book?
Well, it's about Lynette. She's trying to break from the norm, you know. She wants to get out there and have adventure, and at the same time she runs into a man, of course, and
Of course.
he makes her life trouble, but at the same time she wants to join up with him.
As they do. So is this the last book in the series, or are there more that come after this?
Well, it's the last one that's been written. I have 2 others planned, but I haven't written them yet. I'm about to start one of them.
And this is set in American Revolutionary time, is that right? This is set in American Revolutionary time, is that right?
Oh yeah, it's right after, like, the 3 books are right after each other.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still during the American Revolutionary time, but it's over in England.
Oh,
This one's in Devon.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun, and that's an unusual time period for us, or an unusual location. So I think we don't get to talk about that very often. Yeah. Awesome.
True.
So CH, we're recording on Thursday, so this is actually your release day today. When we're recording this, and this is the Duke's Sword, and it's a brand new series for you. That's the Duke's Guard. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
So are these people talking to you? Oh, did you have a cat?
Was that what that was?
I think I saw a cat.
I saw the tail.
I'm hoping.
My dogs are outside, so
I'm extra
we're
partial.
trying to get in. Yeah. So yeah, it's the first book in the series, and I'm already writing the 3rd book in the series, and stressing because the second one is with Scott, my editor, and am I the only one that's hot? I mean, I'm looking around and everybody's like all covered up and like, oh my God. I have the air on. I have all the windows open. Yeah, that's my air conditioning. But Patrick O'Malley is head of the Duke's Guard, and it's a spin-off series from the Lords of Vice series. And there are 16 members of the Guard, and I thought she'd maybe want 4, but she's like, all of them. I was like, okay. And then I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to write? Because I had the first 4 figured out. That's next on my list. But
they'll come to you.
You know, I hope so. Usually when I'm supposed to be sleeping. But it's he's very stoic. He's very responsible because he's the oldest of his brothers and his O'Malley cousins and his Garahan and Flaherty cousins. So he feels responsible for them. He is the reason that the Duke hired all these people when the Duke was receiving threats, and all kinds of really not good stuff happened in the first book of the Duke's series, The Lords of Vice. So they're protecting his family, and sorry, Mae, I just love the tail.
I know, I'm loving it too.
My daughter's cats are just like that. They're just like, oh, hello, just passing through. But anyway,
the whiskers keep floating in.
And he's attracted, and he does his best not to be attracted, but he can't help himself. But Gwendolyn is a widow, and she lost her baby was born premature and didn't survive when her husband was brutally murdered. So she gets the news. And that's like, yeah. We don't go into detail because nobody likes to hear details, but see, I can see it in my head, and I'm like, I can't write that. So, but it's in there, and I write it down so I don't forget. And I have like, see, this is like, these are like my notes are like all over the place on my, whenever I have something happen, and people are like, don't you keep a Bible of your books? I'm like, oh yeah. I shouldn't probably show that. But anyway, sorry. Okay, that's it. I'm sorry. I'm done.
Whatever works. Whatever works.
She's someone we can really root for because she deserves a happily ever after. Not that we all don't. We all do. But, you know, it's like we're going to want it extra hard for her.
Rooting is important.
She has some issues. So, but.
Awesome. Awesome. And we got a long series ahead of us. I'm excited about that. Caroline, your book is the culmination of a series. Is that right?
I'm feeling like a piker. It's only 4. Actually, I thought about putting the next 3 books under the same series label, but because I set up the Ashmead heirs to all be about this will, and it wouldn't be the same, I decided that the series arc didn't work. So we created a new series to come next. But in the meantime, the one that just came out is therefore the last book in the Ashmead heirs.
And that's the Upright Son.
The Upright Son. The Upright Son was the cause of all the problems. Because he's a good guy and his father wasn't. And because he spoke up when he was young, 18, 19, 20, and got whacked for it, his father wrote a spiteful will. And in the spiteful will, he stripped the estate of everything that wasn't tied down or entailed. And of course, he couldn't keep the title from him, but he stripped everything else and gave it to his bastards. And he mentioned them all by name with their mothers just to humiliate everybody. So we've been dealing with all that, and it's finally time for David to get his book. And he's been in the previous 3, and he really is a good person, but he's just wrapped a little too tight as a result of all of this. So we needed somebody who could help him loosen up.
Unwrap.
Because the finances of the estate are finally in order, thanks to his brilliant steward, who was the hero in the last book. He is free to pursue political aims, and his friends have talked him into hosting a house party. In fact, they have found a perfect political wife for him. Nice young lady, perfect English rose, perfect manners, perfect pedigree, perfect everything, just right for an upright earl. Unfortunately, he's attracted to the neighbor who is none of those things. Questionable pedigree, questionable background, bit of a hoyden. He first meets her when she's wading in a creek and doesn't quite know what to make of her. So she gives him a run for his money. And she tries very hard to be on board and even help him find his perfect political hostess, but it just doesn't work. So that's the Upright Son. He really needed a happily ever after.
Yeah. It sounds like so much fun. And I loved when I got the graphics for this one and it said she's nothing he needs and everything he wants. You know,
yes, like exactly. She's nothing he needs and everything he wants.
That's perfect.
And so, it starts with their kids getting into it too. They bond over their children having all sorts of difficulties, including at one point his son falling out a window. And he blames her side entirely, of course. To which she says, if he hadn't been keeping in his room for a week, he might not have attempted to do that.
I'm agreeing with that one.
Yeah. Yes. She gently but firmly improves his parenting skills as this goes on. And such poor parents, he has no idea what to do with these 2 kids.
Oh, so no.
It's kind of fun.
That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
That sounds like so much fun. So we just made the announcement for the next series. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. They're secondary characters from the Ashmead heirs. I mean, you always end up with these characters you don't know what to do with. In the second book in the series, the Duchess had two stepsons. And in the process of that book, we discover that the wrong one is the Duke. She has found evidence that their father was married before, and the one he claimed was a bastard was in fact the product of a legitimate marriage. And the second one was the product of a bigamous marriage. So the younger son is the Duke, but he shouldn't be. So I'm calling it the Untitled Gentleman. The first book is the Duke in all but name, and the second one is the Duke in name only. And the third one is Never a Duke, and that one is about the brother of the hero of the Upright Son. He's a ship owner. He comes from the merchant class. He's everything the upper 10,000 despises, and he's fallen in love with a duke's daughter and can't quite figure out what to do about it because he's nothing her grandfather wants or her father wants. Mm-hmm. And Jeffrey's going to have to figure that out. Jeffrey and Delia are, I think that they might be called quadroons in some cultures, but their grandmother was Black. They're from Jamaica, which doesn't help their standing any. They have a first cousin who is Afro-Jamaican. His name is Barnabas. I've had 3 people ask me to write Barnabas's book because they liked him a lot. So I may have to add a 4th one. I'll have to think about that.
Oh, well, that sounds like so much fun.
It's going to be. In the first book, the one I'm working on now, Gideon has gone home to the ducal estate. Well, he gets a letter from his brother saying, I'm leaving, go take care of things. In other words, the one that discovered he
problem now
that he shouldn't be. What they don't know is he's headed to South Carolina to see if he can find the legal proof one way or another about his father's marriage.
Oh.
So his book is going to take place in North America. That's next. I haven't started that one yet.
Wow.
Half of me wants him in Philadelphia and half of me wants him out on the frontier. I'm going to have to decide what I want to do with that. But so poor Gideon, who's a successful mine owner with a big home and 3 children in Wales, has to go to Dorset to the family house, which he hates. He loathes it. And their father had always called him a half-wit cripple. He was neither of those things.
His father was a really terrible person.
Oh, he was terrible. I'm really good at doing terrible fathers. He has a spinal stenosis. So he has a crooked posture, but he's not crippled. In fact, he's a really good horseman. He has a specialized saddle to hold his back up. But I found that on, what is it? What's that PBS show? Secrets of the Dead. They did a thing on Richard III, what kind of a horseman he was. It was like fascinating. I thought, that's what I need. He has a specialized saddle.
Wow.
Very cool.
Yeah. So, but that's the rumor. So everybody back at the old house was told these things about him, and he was thrown out when he was 20 over a lie. And so he has to live down all of these rumors and false stories and et cetera, while straightening out the mess. And someone in there, of course, is up to no good, and he's going to have to figure out who it is. It isn't who he thinks it is. So.
Oh, some mystery in there too.
Yeah, a little mystery in there too.
And we get to stay in the same world as this one.
Meanwhile, the neighbor who doesn't believe a word of bad about him because she's met him and knows that the rumors aren't true has been forced to take up residence in the Duke's household because her crazy cousin tried to insert herself in and ended up getting sick. It's very Pride and Prejudice. She gets sick and the cousin has to come and take care of her. So that's the one I'm working on.
Everybody needs a crazy cousin.
Yeah.
Yep.
That I had a few myself. So they would say the same about me, I'm sure.
So CH showed us her story Bible.
Yeah.
or like that.
I do have one, but I started putting stuff in it, writing the first book. I guess that was in 2019. And I'm like, and then life happens and I didn't have time. And then life happened again. And then life is really different. So yeah.
Well, I have to have spreadsheets. I need to know what year people were born. If you're going to keep using characters, you have to know how old they are in any given book, and what color their eyes are is helpful too, because if you forget that, some reader's going to find out that mistake.
Yeah.
And
keep track of that and the hair color and who they're married to, who their parents are.
What I haven't done are pedigree charts. Some authors do really good pedigree charts, family trees.
Yep.
I haven't managed to do that yet. I've got 2 series that could use them.
I do like to do that. I have apparently I didn't realize when I wrote my first book I don't even remember, but those characters have Flaherty's and Garahans in it, and they're all related to the ones I'm writing about now. So
because I think you need to get those charts figured out. Yeah.
Yep. I have them.
My first 2 series are all interrelated like that, and now the Ashmead and this one are going to be interrelated, so I'm going to need charts for both.
I just don't have the wall space for them because I need them bigger. I don't know about anybody else, but bigger is better so I can see it.
Yeah.
Whiteboards. So do you, I know you need to keep track of pedigrees and all of that kind of thing. Do you have a process that you go through every time? Do you get the story first? Do you get the characters first? I know your people talk to you. But for the rest of you,
yes.
how do you work your way through a story? Do you get the plot or do you get the characters?
Oh,
Me?
sorry, were you asking
Oh, CH.
anybody?
Go for it.
It's a free for all.
Well, it depends. It depends on what the characters are saying. Michael wasn't talking to me. He's the one I'm writing right now. He didn't like the opening. So I changed the opening, and all of a sudden he's like, well, I'm a twin. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot that. So I made a note of that. And yeah, how I have cousins who are identical twins. I mean, down to the freckle. And I don't really know until they open their mouth and start to speak. I'm really not sure. Is it Amy or is it Susie? I mean, and they're like in their 30s, and you'd think I would remember, but no. So they feel like when something happens, I mean, I know it's a rumor. I'm not a twin, so I don't know. But, when one is injured or something, the other one feels it in my story. So that was like how I opened it. And he was like, I like that. And then he's arguing with his Garahand cousin. So if you haven't read the other books, you won't understand about the whole bare knuckle fighting and, well, never mind. But anyway.
Stuff.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sure you can write 16, because I think as you write these 4, other people are going to start talking to you. And as they talk to you, you will know what their books are.
It gets crowded in there, Carolyn, but yeah.
I know it does.
Yeah.
I also start with characters usually. Certainly the series I'm working on now is all about the characters. In my past, I've occasionally started with a setting, as in, gee, I'm at a cafe in Rome. Can I put a Regency novel here? Well, sure, I can. So I've done a couple of those, but mostly I start with characters. And even in that case, I took a character that was secondary in an earlier book. So it's the characters. So the characters are what matters. The rest of it's sort of decoration around it.
That's who we get attached to.
Yeah.
Mae, what's your writing process like? Do you start with the characters or do you start with the story first?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Well, I think usually I actually start with more like a situation or a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And then I create the characters, and then the setting comes.
Wow.
Nice.
It's kind of a chaotic process,
Do you plot? Do you work out a whole plot or just a central problem?
Right.
You do plot. Yeah, it's always interesting to me to see how people, whether people know the whole way through or whether they're more flying by the seat of their pants.
Or whether their characters follow their synopsis.
Yeah. Right.
Mine don't.
I like to think I know the ending. This time I don't. I usually do. I almost always know the ending, but
well, it's gonna be happy,
right?
And you pretty sure who's gonna end up with who,
right?
Except maybe not this one.
The key thing is what has to happen to the character. What is going to change in the character? What is going to happen to make the character change? If you know that, that's kind of the middle of the book. If you know that point, then you can write by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, you have to unwind
beginning
this
to there to ending. It's pretty much how I do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I tried plotting. I really did. I tried storyboarding. Someone suggested storyboarding. It was deadly. My muse went down to the basement and said, I'm not coming out till you get rid of that thing.
Beach's characters just refuse to talk to her unless she does what they want her to do.
Yes. Don't tell us what we're doing.
I suppose a recalcitrant muse makes sense too.
Yep. It's like trying to plan your life. It doesn't work.
My mom always said if I wanted to make God laugh, I'd have a plan for my life.
Yeah.
I had one.
Exactly.
He must have been laughing.
Yeah.
I have a friend who writes scenes, and she has like whole scenes for the characters. She knows who her characters are, but she has these scenes, and then like all at once, she's able to just like, you know, like a puzzle, put them all in place.
Put it together.
Yeah.
You just have to shoot me because I don't like puzzles. So
No, I couldn't do that either.
but she's really good at it, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, that's remarkable. I've seen mystery writers do that. That's why I can't write mysteries. I can't do that. Mysteries all about the plot, and I'm all about the characters. So,
I have a friend who writes out of order, and I always thought I could never do that. You know, it's like they're touch points. I know they're touch points along the way, but I could never write back here instead of in the beginning because I don't know who the people are that well. You know,
right. Sometimes I'll get a notion and I'll scribble notes for a future scene, but I don't write the scene out of order.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm telling a story, so I have to tell it from the beginning.
So what made you all decide to write historical rather than contemporary? Is there something about that idea of going back in time that really appeals to you? What made you go in that direction?
I'm dying to hear what CH says.
It's another free for all, so everybody in.
You know, I've always had my members of my family remind me that, you know, you're really out of touch. You haven't kept up with the times. You know, do you think it's time you get a cell phone? And, you know, all these like little things. And I was like, well, you know, I'd rather live. Okay, except for Evelyn, you know, the indoor plumbing thing that I talked about the other day. There are a lot of places I really wouldn't mind going. And I have dreams of standing on a hillside. And there's mist, and I'm getting chills right now because I always hear a bagpiper in the distance, you know, floating through the mist. So, yeah, I'm not a woman of the times.
I only read history, so why would I write anything else? I mean, I don't just read historical romance. I read history and biography, historical mysteries, historical paranormal. But pretty much that's it. I don't read a lot of contemporary anything.
So also
I've always been that way. It's always been my fantasy world. So,
what about you, Mae?
I like the thing about historical is it just completely takes you out of today. You know, it makes you escape, like fantasy. I like writing fantasy too, and I do write some fantasy. It's like it's the escape.
Yeah,
that's what I like about
Exactly.
it. I don't really even read contemporary, but there are times I have, you know.
Yeah. That escape makes sense, especially after the last couple of years, being able to step out of place. That all makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 2020s haven't been real great.
Nope. They haven't. But I like to read contemporaries, and I have a really soft spot for cowboys, historical or contemporary. The quintessential American hero.
I like cowboys, but they need to be historical cowboys. So, you know,
they're irascible no matter where you put them.
Yep. And any era. I'll read any era of historical romance. I mean, I like ancient Rome.
You say, do you have a favorite?
I like Renaissance. I like Regency. Regency's easy. It's a sort of a fantasy world that's already constructed out there. World War I, World War II. There's good books in there. I like good writing. I like good prose. And the more I'm in this business, the less patience I have with books that aren't that. You know, we get all these books buried on our Kindle, and if you don't have me in a chapter, you probably don't have me for the rest of the book.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that I love about Dragonblade books is you can count on getting a good story. You know, the Dragonblade brand is a strong brand, and it is that way because you can count on getting a good story.
Right.
You know?
Right.
My time is as valuable as anything right now. So
we absolutely have followers who go to the Dragonblade name as much as the author name. I found a few on BookBub. You know, you say, well, what does she read? And you look at it, and there's Dragonblade, 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 Dragonblade.
Nice.
So is there any kind of particular research you guys do? Do you put it off till the end? Do you do it mid-book? Do you chase rabbit holes, or do you wait and do it all at once?
Try not to chase rabbit holes. I don't have much time, but I do it in between. I do it during the book. I hit something, I go, oh, like, for example, the heroine's cousin has pneumonia. I'm like, what do I know about the treatment for pneumonia? Turns out it's not that big a deal. It's, fluids, rest, and tip her bed up and a few things, but she'll survive or she won't. That's the big difference. No antibiotics.
Yeah.
I haven't decided if she's going to make it or not.
Wait, she the heroine?
No, the cousin.
Oh.
The wonky cousin.
Because the heroine has to make it.
Right, the heroine. Okay. Well,
the heroine needs to make it to the end of the book. So
I don't know. I read a book years ago. I think it was in the 1980s. I think it was a Dell romance, and the heroine died. And I was like, okay, I don't know where we're going with this story.
That's Nicholas Sparks level stuff, and we don't do that.
Yeah,
that
no,
sounds
I don't.
like a career killer.
It was. I didn't act. Yeah, I soldiered on. I read the book, and I was like, yeah, no.
I just read a story, and I'm still working my way through the Sunflower anthology, the huge one people.
Oh yeah, the Ukrainian.
And there's I think it's Jenna Jackson has one in there where turns out the heroine is dead. She doesn't know she's dead.
Spoiler.
Yeah, no, really. The hero is, and she figures out he's a ghost, and by the end of the story,
Spoilers.
By the end of the story, she realizes she is too. It's kind of sweet, actually, but very different.
I feel like we just gave away the whole plot of the Sixth Sense.
No. So
Like,
did
spoiler,
you figure
spoiler.
out the Sixth Sense before the end? I did not.
I did not. And I was kind of sad when I got to it. But Jenna also had a book come out this week. I'm sorry she wasn't able to join us today. We'll talk to her in a future chat. But her book was one of the Lion's Den books. It's The Pride of Lions, and I'm always really curious to see what it's like for authors to step into the Lion's Den. I know CH, you've written in that world, haven't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a challenge because you have the world, but they had so much information for you. The description. I loved the floor plan, and a couple other some great authors like started the whole series, like Jade Lee and a couple of other authors that are my name. Yeah, I can't remember the names right now, but it's a wonderful series. And God, her cover is gorgeous. Jenna's cover. I was like,
Yeah.
Whoa,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
can I have that guy on one of my books?
Yeah, really. I agree.
Yeah, really pretty, and the depth of the color and the roses and stuff in the background. I was like, wow, it really draws you. And then you read. So then, for me, if a cover catches my eye, I was like, oh, I'm gonna check this out. Then if I can't read the font, I'm like, my eyesight's really bad, so I'm like, well, maybe not, or maybe I'll skip this one. But Dragonblade has gorgeous covers.
They do. The covers for Mae's Poisonous Passion series are so beautiful. And and the most recent one for Rebellious with that green dress and the horse in the background, and it's just like I love being able to make ad creatives with the covers because they're so beautiful.
Yeah.
They're so beautiful. And Caroline's look like looks like the whole family. It's like when you look at it.
Yeah, those were nicely done. I really like those.
Yeah. Did a really beautiful job.
Think about the next series. Did I give her the answer to that question? I'll have to think about it.
Well, so we know Caroline's got a new series coming, and CH, you've got the never ending Duke's Guard series. Mae, what's next for you?
What's for me?
What are you looking at next?
I'm following, I swear. Well, I want to write the fourth book to the Poisonous Passion series, which I want to include pirates.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I've never written pirates before, so it's going to take me a lot of research. But I think it will be fun.
Yeah.
Pirates are super fun.
There's some great visuals if you want to watch a couple of old movies. I mean, they're not all like Jack Sparrow. There's like Errol Flynn. But if you need the visual.
My best friend in high school had such a crush on Errol Flynn.
Captain Blood.
Yes. Very
Poor
good
Robin
one.
Hood.
No, Robin Hood.
No
not
idea
so
who
much.
she was
Captain
talking
Blood,
about.
yes.
Oh God, love that movie, The Seahawk.
Hmm.
See, not of this time.
Okay.
Yep. Me
Well,
too.
ladies, it was fantastic to talk to you today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm going to put all the books in the links to the chat so that if you haven't gotten your Dragonblade books yet, you can get them. You want to get them on pre-order period or release day are the very best times to get them because they are never a better deal than then. So I'll make sure that the links are there so they're very easy to grab a hold of. Thanks again for taking the time to be with us, and ladies, thanks for taking your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. It was great.
Thank you,
It was
Evelyn.
nice to see you guys too.
Good seeing everybody.
Take
See you
care.
next
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.